What's going on, people? Today we're diving into a story that's shaking up the Nigerian judicial system. If you haven't heard already, things are getting pretty heated in the ongoing trial of Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, the leader of the Indigenous People of Biafra, IPOB. The recent drama in the courtroom is nothing short of jaw-dropping. We're talking about a situation where Justice James Omotosho decided to move towards judgment without allowing Kanu's defense team the right to present the final address. Yes, you heard that right. Denied the man the constitutional right to make his case. What's going on here? And why is this such a big deal? Now let's break it down, because this is a huge issue. You see, in any criminal trial, whether in Nigeria or anywhere else in the world, there's something called the final address. This is the TT last opportunity for the defense to challenge the prosecution's case and explain why the defendant shouldn't be convicted. It's crucial. It's where the defense gets to argue the law, bring up any flaws in the prosecution's evidence, and make the final plea to the judge. The final address is not a mere formality, it's part of a fair trial. And guess what? The right to this final address is protected by the Nigerian Constitution under Section 36(1). This guarantees the defendant a fair hearing. And if you deny that, well, you're walking into dangerous territory. So what happened in Kanu's case? Why did Justice Omotosho refuse courts to let Kanu's defense team make their case? We're all trying to figure that out, because this is nothing short of unconstitutional. This move isn't just an oversight, it's a direct violation of Kanu's rights. And it's not something that can be brushed aside. In fact, any trial that proceeds without allowing a defendant to present their final address is, in legal terms, a nullity. It means it's not valid, it doesn't stand, and it's essentially void. Think about it. If the final address is denied, the entire trial is compromised. No matter the evidence, no matter the outcome, if you don't allow someone to fully make their case, can you really call it a fair trial? This brings us to the bigger question. Why would Justice Omotosho do this? Why risk compromising the integrity of the trial? Why throw the entire process into question? Is it to shut down Kanu's defense? Is there something being hidden here? Whatever the reason, it's clear this action has raised some serious red flags, not just in Nigeria, but across the globe. If this decision goes unchallenged, it could set a dangerous precedent for how future trials are handled. What happens when a defendant's right to a fair trial is sidelined? What message does that send to the public? What does it mean for every other Nigerian citizen who might one day find themselves in a courtroom? And this is where the situation becomes even more concerning. Because Kanu's case isn't just any trial, it's a politically charged case. Kanu has been an outspoken critic of the Nigerian government, and his push for an independent Biafra has made him a controversial figure. The Nigerian government sees him as a threat, and his supporters see him as a freedom fighter. But no matter what side of the debate you're on, everyone agrees on one thing. The law should be the law. If Kanu is being denied his right to a fair trial, that's a problem that affects not only him but everyone in Nigeria. The legal experts are already weighing in on this, and the consensus is clear. This isn't just a minor slip-up by Justice Omotosho. This is a grave violation of Kanu's constitutional rights. And it's not the first time his trial has raised questions about the fairness of the process. From his abduction in Kenya to his alien detention in Nigeria, there have been countless legal and human rights issues surrounding his case. But this final address denial is a whole new level. It's as if the court is sending a message. We don't care about the Constitution. We don't care about fairness. The implications are huge. If this continues, it could undermine public confidence in the Nigerian justice system. Imagine being a defendant in any trial. How would you feel knowing that the court could just strip you of your constitutional rights at any moment? That's a slippery slope. If a judge can take away a defendant's right to a final address, what's stopping them from taking away other rights? It's a frightening thought.
Now, some people might argue that Kanu's case is unique. After all, he's a controversial figure. But that's exactly why this matters. This case isn't just about Kanu. It's about justice for everyone. What happens in his trial could affect the way future cases are handled, and that should worry anyone who believes in the rule of law. If the judicial system becomes politicized to the point where constitutional rights are ignored,
then where does that leave ordinary Nigerians? It leaves them vulnerable to a system that's not interested in fairness, but rather in political expediency. And let's not forget the international angle. Kanu's case has drawn attention from human rights organizations and governments around the world. They're watching closely and they're asking tough questions. If Nigeria's courts can get away with denying someone their final address, what message does that send to the rest of the world? It's a message that Nigeria's judicial system is not to be trusted. And that's not something any country wants to be known for. The world is watching, and it's up to the Nigerian government to prove that they are committed to the rule of law. So, what happens next? Will this trial continue in the shadow of this blatant violation?
Or will Kanu's legal team be given the chance to make their final address and argue their case properly? The ball is in the court's hands. If the Palaba continue to ignore Kanu's rights, it could lead to legal chaos. The whole trial could be thrown out, and the integrity of the Nigerian justice system would be further compromised. But if the court decides to honor Kanu's rights and allow the defense to present their case, it could send a powerful message to the world that Nigeria values justice, that they believe in fair trials, and that they uphold the Constitution. As we sit and watch this play out, it's essential for all Nigerians and even the international community to pay close attention. This case is far from over,
and the decisions made in the coming days will have lasting consequences, not just for Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, but for the future of justice in Nigeria. As we continue to examine the situation, there's another crucial aspect to consider. The broader implications of this trial and the systemic issues it might reveal. The failure to respect constitutional rights is not an isolated incident. It's a sign that something much deeper is at play within Nigeria's legal system. The case of Mazi Nnamdi Kanu may seem unique, but it's part of a larger pattern that many Nigerians feel is playing out in the country's courts. Why should we care about this? Because it's not just Kanu's rights being trampled, it's everyone's rights. What happens when the courts start taking liberties with the law?
When decisions are made based on political leanings or personal interests rather than the rule of law? The truth is, if this denial of Kanu's right to a final address goes unchallenged, it could work as set a dangerous precedent for every other trial in Nigeria. If the courts can disregard the Constitution in such a high-profile case, what's stopping them from doing the same in less publicized cases? But that's not the only issue here. We also have to ask ourselves, what's at stake for Kanu and his defense team? For one, denying him the right to present his final address means that he will not be able to make a full case to the court, outlining the weaknesses in the prosecution's evidence and making a final appeal for his innocence. This is a fundamental part of the adversarial justice system.
And it's the very thing that ensures justice is done properly. Without it, it's almost as if the trial is already rigged from the start. But let's take a step back and look at the bigger picture. What does this say about Nigeria's democracy? A democracy is supposed to work for everyone, even those with unpopular views. It's supposed to protect the rights of every citizen, regardless of their political or social standing. In a democracy, the law is supposed to be impartial, not shaped by political pressure or the whims of those in power. Yet, when something like this happens, when a judge can unilaterally strip a defendant of their constitutional rights, it shakes the very foundation of what democracy is supposed to stand for. Now, it's easy to see how people would feel that this trial is politically motivated.
Kanu's vocal stance on Biafra and his history of challenging the Nigerian government make him a polarizing figure. But even if you don't agree with his views, it's vital that we all uphold his right to a fair trial. Because today it's Kanu, tomorrow it could be someone else. We must defend fairness, no matter who the defendant is and no matter what their cause might be. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that Kanu's supporters are beyond criticism, but here's the thing. It's about the principle of fairness. It's about ensuring that no one is denied their day in court, that everyone else gets to put their case forward, no matter your views, your political affiliations, or your status in society. Everyone is entitled to a fair trial under the law. Denying that right sets us on a slippery slope, where the law no longer serves the people, but rather serves the powerful. So what can we expect next? Will the courts reverse their decision and give Kanu the chance to present his final address? Or will this case drag on, leaving questions unanswered and the legitimacy of the trial in doubt? The public is watching, and international organizations are paying close attention to. This isn't just about one man's trial. This is about how we, as a country, approach justice, democracy, and the rule of law. What's even more troubling is the fact that the Nigerian government, while claiming to uphold the law, seems to be making decisions based on what's politically expedient rather than what's legally right. If we don't hold those in power accountable for these kinds of actions,
we risk allowing the rule of law to become nothing more than a formality. A democracy doesn't just depend on free elections or political participation. It depends on a system of justice that works for everyone. Without that, we are just another country pretending to be democratic. The bottom line is that the legal community, human rights activists, and the public at large need to raise their voices and demand that Kanu's rights be respected. This isn't just about him, it's about all of us. If we allow this to slide, what's next? What happens when no one's rights are safe? And let's talk about public confidence in the judiciary. When people feel that the system is stacked against them, that the rights can be stripped away without question, that trust in the courts diminishes.
The Nigerian government cannot afford to let this case go unresolved. The courts have to restore public trust by ensuring that this trial follows the law to the letter, nail, and that Kanu's final address is heard. That is the very least the judicial system owes to every Nigerian citizen. And that's the gist of it. This is where we stand right now, but it's far from the end of the story. As this trial continues to unfold, we'll be right here, keeping you updated. But before I go, let me know your thoughts. Do you think Kanu's right to a fair trial has been violated, or is this all just political theater? Drop your comments below. Let's have a discussion. Make sure to hit that like button if you found this breakdown insightful. And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss out on future updates. Share this video with your friends.
And let's get the conversation going. Keep watching, keep asking questions, and stay engaged. As always, I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.